Is teleconverters reducing your image quality? And what about the AF speed? Let's find out. Hi, it's Peter here. Teleconverters are great. It's an easy and cost-effective way of making your telephoto lenses even longer. But what about the image quality and the AF speed? On this video I will test both MC-14 and MC-20, the two teleconverters that OMDS delivers or sells. The lenses I'm using is 40 to 150 mm and 100 to 400 mm telephoto lenses. The third one that is supported is the 150 to 400 mm f4.5 lens, which I don't have. That's why I'm using only these two lenses for this test. And I did some lab tests using this old backgammon game that has a lot of these, I don't know what you call this, but handmade thing which has a lot of details. So we can clearly see how the sharpness is and how the contrast works. But lab tests are, almost something that you should not watch. But it's a great way to start. And I will also have some real life tests, which of course is mainly for the AF. It's the real life that really matters. And let's start comparing. As I said, I have a Target, which is an old backgammon game that we've had for many, many years. And I think it was quite suitable for this quick test. And it's not a scientific test, but it gives some clear differences between no converter and MC-14 and MC-20. And the results were not a surprise to me. Here you can see on the left is image without the teleconverter, and here in the middle is MC-14, and in the middle is MC-20. The focal length was 40 millimeters on 100, okay, this is 40 and 150 millimeter lens, f2.8 lens, and then I had it wide open with all the teleconverters. And as you can clearly see, the biggest difference is in contrast and of course sharpness and saturation. And this goes throughout the whole focal length range and with different apertures. And this was no surprise. But what if we add some contrast and saturation to the images which are taken with the converter? And you can see the difference is a lot less. So fixing the images with some image editing will make the image a lot better. Of course, in all cases, but especially with the teleconverters. And then the other lens that I had was 100 and 400 millimeter lens. And without saying, the results were similar. The teleconverters reduces the image quality slightly, and it makes the image looks a bit flat, which might not be a bad thing, but of course it lacks a bit sharpness too. And the same goes here. If you add some contrast, sharpness and saturation to the image, you will get a lot better result. So if you're using teleconverters, you need to add contrast, saturation and maybe some sharpness. That's up to you, of course, what's your goal in the image, how much the sharpness actually matters. And in most cases, I have to say that when you're using these, it's probably birds and sports. Yes, it does matter, the sharpness. But what about the AF performance? For that, I went outside and photographed some football. I will first show some images that I took during that football game. I won't tell you which combination of lenses I had. I used OM System OM1 camera, and I had the two lenses that I already said and the extenders. But I won't tell you which one is which. I will tell you after I've talked about the AF. So try to figure out which combination I had and see if you can figure it out. Some of the images are cropped, so the focal length might not, or the image might not tell you that. But if you look at the image quality and the look and feel of the image, you might figure that out. But here are the images. It's no surprise that the 40 to 150 mm f2.8 Pro lens worked the best. It was okay even with the MC-20, and MC-14 was also okay. But of course, if you want the best results, you want to use the 40-150mm f2.8 Pro lens without any extenders. But as I said, it's totally usable with this lens. Unfortunately, the 100 and 400mm lens is a bit of a different story. With the MC-14, it was totally okay, but with MC-20, the AF got a bit slower, and as we saw earlier, the image quality is also not as good as without the extender. The AF with the MC-20 and the 100 and 400mm lens was okay once it hit the target or locked the target. Then the focus kept, even though the subject were moving, as long as I could keep the subject inside the AF area. But the first moment took a bit longer than without the extender. And of course, a fast-moving sports like football, you need to nail that first shot too, because when you're reacting something, that's probably when everything happens. And the images after that might be better if that incident or whatever is going on continues. But this is not a big problem if you're shooting soccer or anything that is similar area or smaller, because the 100 and 400mm MC-20 was too long for soccer anyways, or football, so it didn't really matter that it doesn't really work. But for a slower pace sport that is, or action that is more further away, it's totally okay if you don't mind the small degraded image quality like we saw earlier. And here are the information about what image was shot with which combination. I will show it briefly here, so if you want to really find out, you can stop the video for a little while, because, you know, I want to keep this short. So if you want to watch them, stop the video for a little while and then continue. So what are my thoughts? Well, both lenses are, as it is, really good for sports. And I hope I can test during the winter in indoor sports with the 40-150mm f2.8, because it's fast enough. But with the 100 to 400mm, it might be too slow, or the fastest aperture is not fast enough for indoor sports because there's not enough light. But let's see what I can do and test that too. But as I said, both are okay like it is. And the 40-150mm f2.8 lens is totally fine with MC-14 and MC-20. You can totally use it for soccer and you can get really great results. The results depends, of course, on your skills and knowledge of the game and what to photograph. But the camera and the lens won't be in your way. And then the 100 and 400mm lens. I have a video about that and some tips about shooting football. So if you want to watch that, it's all about that lens. But if you add the MC-14, you can use it and the image quality is plausible and the AF is just fast enough for this. But the MC-20, to be honest, I would not recommend it using for fast action sports or any other fast action with the 100 and 400mm lens. It's just not good enough. But if your subject is more stationary and you can fix some of the flaws that it has when it comes to sharpness, then it's no problem. It's something that you can use. But like I said, fast action sports, I wouldn't use it. And as we saw from the images, the differences are a lot bigger if you're just making a lab test. And of course, those were also photographed quite close to the subject, which is not the normal thing for a long telephoto lens, even though 100 and 400mm is not a bad close-up lens because you can focus quite close with it. So the real world differences were a bit smaller and you can totally use it, but if you're shooting a target, the differences are really visible and you can really see them. I hope this comparison was helpful for you to decide if you are on a market for MC-14 or even the MC-20. You can find some links in the description if you are into getting those. And here is the video about 100 and 400mm when I was shooting football/soccer a couple of weeks ago with Helsinki Cup. You might want to watch that if you want to learn some more tips about shooting football. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.